This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some important updates to share with you. 7 states are giving out stimulus checks and going out in the month of August. One new state has just announced $250 stimulus checks going out. When it comes to the big reconciliation bill, Bernie Sanders thinks more money should be for the people in that bill. I'll play a video clip of what he says. Some economists, top economists supposedly, are saying that this big Inflation Reduction Act will put downward pressure on inflation. Meanwhile, 230 economists warn against this big bill. I'll give you both the Democrat and Republican perspective from Lindsey Graham there, and I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So Sanders grapples with missed opportunity in Democrats' economic plan. So the Vermont senator wanted Democrats to seek significant changes to the economy. Does that bill do that? No, he said, might be better than nothing. Yes. So looks like Bernie Sanders is settling with this bill. He is not fully happy, especially since originally it was $3.5 trillion and covered a lot of other stimulus provisions in it. A lot of that has been stripped out, saying this is the most significant piece of legislation since the Great Depression, but a lot of work remains. So yeah, Bernie Sanders not too happy with this. Take a look at this video clip of Bernie Sanders. Let me know if you agree or disagree with Bernie.
According to a recent University of Chicago poll, a strong majority of Americans believe that the government is, quote, corrupt and rigged against me, end quote. Further, according to a recent USA Today poll, a very strong majority no longer believe that the Democratic or Republican parties are responding to their needs, and we have to move away from a two-party system to a multi-party system. As we speak right now, while working families and the middle class are falling further and further behind economically, the billionaires in this country, through their super PACs, are doing everything that they can to elect members of Congress who will support the wealthy and powerful against the needs of average Americans in both parties. We don't talk about it much here in the Senate or in the corporate media, but at this moment in American history, we have more income and wealth inequality than at any time in the last 100 years. Now, I know we're not allowed to talk about it. It's not fashionable. We might offend some wealthy campaign contributors. Now, I have heard from some of my colleagues that the Build Back Better legislation passed by the U.S. House of Representatives and supported by some 48 out of 50 members of the Senate Democratic Caucus and by the President of the United States is dead, not going anywhere. Can't get the 50 votes that is needed. Now, I don't know if that is absolutely true or not, but I do know that if it is true, it would be a disaster for the working families of our country who today are desperately trying to survive economically. This is legislation which, at a time of massive profits for the pharmaceutical industry, and we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, takes some very modest steps to lower or control the price of medicine. This is legislation which has some good and important provisions pertaining to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, but at the same time provides massive giveaways to the fossil fuel industry, whose emissions are destroying the planet. This is legislation which appropriately ends the absurdity of large, profitable corporations paying nothing in federal income tax, but at the same time leaves intact virtually all of Trump's tax breaks for the wealthy and large corporations. In my view, now is the time for every member of the Senate to study this bill thoroughly and to come up with amendments and suggestions as to how we can improve it.
So what are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree with Bernie Sanders? Could there be more added to this bill to help out more Americans financially? Some type of stimulus aid there? Let me know your thoughts. I always like to give you conflicting, or actually not conflicting, opposing views on everything. This way you see the big picture. You get the Democrat perspective, the Republican perspective, left, right, liberal, conservative. So first on CNN, top economists say Democrats' healthcare and climate package will put downward pressure on inflation. Downward pressure is a good thing, saying that the historic legislation makes crucial investments in energy, healthcare, and shoring up the nation's tax system. These investments will fight inflation, lower costs for Americans, while setting the stage for strong, stable, and broadly shared long-term economic growth. 126 economists said in a letter, basically saying that this big package is good. Meanwhile, on the other side of it, we're getting articles like this. Over 230 economists warn Manchin's spending bill will perpetuate inflation. So 126 economists in a letter saying that they're for it. Now 230 basically saying that they are against it. Who do you believe? What are we supposed to hear about this? Or think about this. A letter sent to the House and Senate leadership from 230 economists argue that the Inflation Reduction Act is expected to contribute to skyrocketed inflation and will burden the U.S. economy, contrary to President Biden and Democrats' claims. Who are we supposed to believe? So it looks like two different letters. 126 are for it, 230 against it. Do the amount of numbers speak volumes in terms, or have more weight? I don't know. Take a look at the Republican perspective on this Inflation Reduction Act, and I want to get your opinion on it.
So this is the Inflation Reduction Act, but the CBO just wrote you a letter saying there is no inflation reduction. Well, what do you make of that, sir?
It'd be like Lindsey Graham marketing himself as being very tall. I am not. I have many flaws. I have some assets. But the bill is a complete fraud. So when you ask people outside of politics, you know, Joe Biden today, President Biden was at the Business Roundtable urging them to call Congress to pass a bill to lower inflation. Okay, so the Inflation Reduction Act, when looked at by the Congressional Budget Office, the gold standard, according to Joe Manchin, says that in 2022, it will have negligible effect on inflation. In 2023, next year, inflation will go up or down by 0.1%. That doesn't sound like, to me, it's reducing inflation. They also told us that the subsidies for Obamacare include people that make $304,000 a year. That doesn't sound like helping the poor. And it also says the 15% minimum tax that you described will create disincentives to build factories and buy equipment during a recession. Now, who in their right mind wants to tax and spend during a recession? Who wants to create policies during a recession to de-incentivize investing into the private sector? Only liberals who worship at the altar of climate change. Climate change is a religion for them, not a problem. And if you want environmental justice, get China and India to play the same game we're playing.
Ah, there you go. Now, that's an interesting thought. By the way, just on that one, I'm just going to digress real quick. It's a great thought, Lindsay. This is something that Rick Perry said months and months ago. You know, if the Bidens would open the spigots for LNG exports to Asia, India, China, whomever, that would do more to reduce global climate problems than anything we're doing here with $400 billion worth of subsidies, tax credits for electric cars for people who don't need the money. In other words, if we did, we could actually reduce the global climate problem if we'd export LNG, which they don't want us to do. But I digress.
Well, you're right.
I mean, it's an important point. So, Senator Graham, let me ask you this. In all seriousness, since there's now all these big deal models saying this will not reduce inflation, we're left with a big tax bill and we're left with a big spending bill. The tax bill will deepen recession. The spending bill is likely to increase inflation. Why do we need this bill? And is there any way to stop it, sir?
It's driven by the climate change community within the Democratic caucus. Joe Manchin, who's been a friend, who preserved the filibuster and voted against H.R. 1, and he's done some good things. I think has made a huge mistake here. Matter of fact, we had dinner last night. I said, Joe, there's a 16.4 cents per barrel tax on imported oil that's tied to inflation. That tax was eliminated in 1994. 95 is a vampire tax. They're bringing it back. That's going to add cost to the pump. And the Obamacare subsidies are not going to end in 3 years. If you score them over a 10-year period, it wipes out all the savings in this bill. It is inflationary. And the reason I know it's inflationary is because when you spend money at the government level and you tax the private sector, you get less growth. And the taxes on corporations are passed down to individual people. And when you look at the distribution of the tax increases, it falls on people well below $100,000. So they've sold him an idea that doesn't exist in reality.
Now that you've heard a few different perspectives here, are you for or against this Inflation Reduction Act? Will it reduce inflation? Will it increase inflation? Let me know your thoughts on that. I guess we won't know until it happens. Stimulus 2022, one-time child tax credit rebate payments worth $250 will be sent out automatically. So this is in the state of Rhode Island. This is just announced by the governor, Dan McKee, and it's a one-time child tax rebate for families that will begin rolling out in the fall. $250 per child for up to 3 children in a household. So yeah, this is brand new, child tax credit. But in terms of other state stimulus checks going out, we have 7 states that are sending out payments in August. So I'll go through this list really quick. Delaware, $300 checks there. Florida, the new $450 child credits. This is for relative and non-relative caregivers and adoptive or foster child households. Then Georgia sending out $250, $375, and $500 checks. Hawaii giving out $300 checks if you make less than $100,000 and $100 checks if you make more than $100,000. Indiana, $125 payments. Minnesota, $750 checks. New Mexico, $500 checks, or actually $250 for single, $500 checks for couples, and then $250 rebates were issued in July. The first half, the $500, which came in June. And yeah, so that's it for the 7 states for August. And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella's tip of the day, and what I want to tell you is always stay happy. Always be glad for your family, because your family is the ones who made you and made you. So everybody, hope you have a good July 4th. Bye! Now?
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your support and effort. So today, another day, my wife is working a 24-hour shift, so just me and the girls today. Gonna have some fun time, and yeah, right after this is my first meal. Haven't eaten since last Sunday. Just been having juice, fresh made juice that my wife and I made. So yeah, I've been thinking about this all week. I do these videos first thing in the morning, and I said after this video, I'm gonna eat pork buns, noodles, anything I could get my hands on. I've been like laying out my first meal for a while, so really excited about that. Anyways, if you want to check out any of my other videos, my other channels, you could click right up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.